This is Alan Gray here with Newsblaze, and I'm here with William Cullifer from the Rebuild GM initiative. Hi, William. How are you today?
Very well, thanks, Alan.
William, I understand you're interested in rebuilding GM. Can you tell me about that?
Yes, I'd be happy to. There are a number of good reasons to rebuild GM, I think. For starters, it's an American icon and it deserves to be recognized for its successes, past and present. Also, what Americans need to better understand is GM is not that far off the track, and they're not asking for a handout. With that in mind, I'd like to lend a hand.
And why is that important to you?
Well, because it's an American story and it really affects us all.
Right, that is true. So what prompted you to do this?
Well, my interest in the topic stems back from an interview of a GM worker on National Public Radio. As a result of the interview, I'd like to support the rebuilding of GM and its workforce by lending my skills.
Okay, and how do you intend to support the rebuilding of GM?
Well, specifically, I'd like to drill into the stories in a documentary style using today's web resources to feature those that build the cars that Americans drive every day. It's the American workforce that's the real essence of the story, and it's worth documenting.
So what about the GM worker interview that inspired you? Can you tell me about that?
Sure. Well, like many Americans today, I worry about the economy and how the current situation will affect my family and those around me. That recent NPR interview entitled Michigan Worries Economic Recovery featured a GM employee by the name of Don Skidmore struck a chord with.
And how was that?
Well, Don talked about the plant that he works for in Michigan that built the B-24 back in World War II, which I didn't know. He also talked about he's been around long enough to witness a few up and downs of the past, and things are really different now. And I walked away from the interview feeling inspired by the fact that Don is trying to help others that he works with to stay upbeat. I'd like to think that I'd do the same if I were in a similar situation. Additionally, Don's interview put a face to GM and made it human. It also got me to thinking about a time when America pulled together as one and how GM helped America through some difficult times. Last but not least, I walked away thinking about the significant contributions of an American worker to our overall health and to our economy.
So why do you think we should rebuild GM?
Well, for starters, I'm in the opinion that the average American doesn't fully understand the implications of a GM failure. I'm not just talking about the economy in general, because I think it will certainly prevail over time. What I'm talking about is an erosion of the middle class. An American auto industry failure is not a GM problem, I think. It's an American problem. Also, let's be clear here. A rebuild GM is not a handout, since I don't think that that's what they're asking for. The American car manufacturers play a significant role in supporting our country financially, and the cars they build are ingrained in our culture and in our heritage.
So do you think that the cars will sell?
Yes, I do, and they have in the past. I own a GM product, and I also own a Toyota and a German car, and they all have over 100,000 miles on them. Why it's true, some of them could be more energy efficient. They're still on the job. Truth is, GM builds nice cars and trucks, and given the demand, they can improve the items buyers want most over time.
So what would you say to those that say it's a business mantra that the strong survive and the weak die?
Well, let's face it, even the strongest among us need support from time to time. And sure, rebuilding GM might be painful for a period of time, but I get the sense that these guys get it, and I also think they employ a lot of great talent as well. It's not like all cars and trucks GM sell are bad, because simply they're not. Also, we're not talking about bailing out Wall Street or bailing out AIG here. GM might be able to be blamed for big cars, but they can't be blamed for the fact that banks stopped loaning money, and that's a simple cash flow situation. So, for me personally, I'm in favor of making loans available to rebuild and restructure. Build cars that are more fuel efficient, here to stay today.
Okay, well, that sounds good. So what do you hope to achieve with the RebuildGM.org website?
Well, I'm hopeful that this effort will support the dialogue on the topic. I'm also hopeful that your listeners will sign up for the email news alerts on the RebuildGM.org website, and that they will follow along with what I hope is a documentary of sorts, complete with in-depth interviews, audio and video podcasts, insights into this topic. Sure, GM needs to retool and improve with some new improved models and strategies, but, at the end of the day, what American company does not these days?
Well, I think you're right. I think that's something that Americans can get behind, and I think they just need to go to RebuildGM.org.
Yeah, that's right. www.rebuildgm.org.
Well, thanks, William. Thanks for your time today.
My pleasure.